the southeast edge of the Alps in Slovenia. Our forest has been able to survive here during the periods of extensive glaciations. A tiny slice of it is still preserved to this day, the Krokar Primeval Forest Reserve. Foresters entered this ancient forest just over a century ago. At the edge of the then almost untouched forest in Kočevska, at the ridge of Mount Borovška Gora, they stumbled upon a primeval forest, which has remained as it was back then, a primeval beech forest. This forest, and the woods in its vicinity, between the Alps and the Dinaric Alps, are a gene pool of the beech trees, which have, after the end of the Ice Ages, inhabited Central, Eastern and Northern Europe. Amongst all known European populations of beech trees that have survived the glaciations, this population here was the first to start spreading across Europe. Their seeds continue to travel, even to this day. The ice cover of Europe has descended across the Slovene Alps to their mountainous fringes. The European beech has surely survived at least the last two most intense glaciation periods in higher, more sheltered areas in the so-called refugia. This era spans from around 400,000 to approximately 10,000 years before the present day. Low temperatures have thinned out the beech population. Only the toughest trees have managed to adapt. A great genetic variability of beech trees in the Krokar forest are proof of this. In order to preserve a healthy forest, genetic diversity of the forest is crucial in a time of rapid climate change as well. Hence the Slovenian Forestry Institute, together with 5 other European partners within the LIFE LIFEGENMON project, are establishing the genetic monitoring of forests. This monitoring enables the early detection of any detrimental changes in the forest and is extremely helpful during decision-making related to sustainable forest management. Today, Mount Borovška Gora rises high above the Kolpa River Valley. The Krokar Primeval Forest lies on its shoulders. More than 1,000 meters above sea level, spring vegetation appears significantly later than down in the valley. But the first harbingers of spring are already here, mountain daffodils and the pecking of a very rare and endangered bird, typical of an old forest. The wide-backed woodpecker marking its territory. Scientists use dormant beech buds and tree bark to enhance their genetic studies in order to establish the origin and relation between beech populations in Europe. So far, analysis and comparisons have shown that a vast majority of beech populations from Central, Eastern and Northern Europe have a very unified genetic structure. This structure is almost identical to the genetic structure of trees within the Slovene territory. It indicates that some 9,000 years ago, the beech had rapidly spread to the west across the entire south edge of the Alps, circumvented the mountain range on the east, and over millennia advanced across Central Europe all the way up to the south of Scandinavia and England, where it is present for 2 or maybe 3,000 years at most. Heavy beech seeds, beech nuts, fall no more than 20 meters from any single tree. They can be carried much further by torrents and animals who feed on them, especially birds. Years with an abundance of seeds accelerate the spread and rejuvenation processes. In the Krokar forest, spring flourishes in the herbal belt. Moist soil and light are conducive to wild garlic. A thick carpet can impede the growth of seedlings and shoots. Nevertheless, this largest of all Slovene primeval forests has a 2 to 3 times thicker wood blanket than the surrounding forest and a high percentage of dead trees. It is therefore perceived to be one of the best preserved ecosystems of its kind in Europe. Early dog violets blossom on the rocky forest edge, while the delicate rockcress is already under the shelter of the treetops. Coil roots already have bulbils in their axilla. The first orchids begin opening up, and a creeping navelwort blossom in the undergrowth. This flower belongs to relic species, which has survived the ice ages here and confirmed the existence of a shelter. Yellow archangels grow under the shelter of the forest. It is not before late spring that tall trees start to turn green. The predominant species is beech. Fir trees also like the night coolness and less moisture in the air. Buds, young leaves, tree bark, beech flowers, beech nuts and other seeds and fruits, mushrooms, larvae and ants. All this is on the menu for the fat dormouse. But beech trees played a crucial role, as the dormouse's reproduction depends on them. The year of the beech nuts is always a dormouse year too. Dormice, the same as birds, efficiently spread beech seeds throughout the forest and beyond. The wild garlic carpet in the primeval forest is just about to blossom. Near the forest edge, bird's nest orchids rise above the wild garlic. These plants don't need much light, as they get the necessary nutrition through its roots, fungi and other plants. Occasionally, the golden eagle nests in the rocky walls and ravines under the ridge. Its kingdom encompasses the expanses above the woods and the Kolpa River Valley. The forest canopy blankets even the sunny edge of the primeval forest in summer. There are several plants in full bloom: the early purple orchid, squirrose knapeweed, narrow-leaved helleborine, and the dark rampion. Stinking Empoceris starts flowering in spring. Oribus-like veg flower in the undergrowth. This is another plant which has been around even before the Ice Ages, a relic from the Tertiary. But the most prominent among these old species is probably the giant dead nettle. Together with the common beech, they form one of the most numerous forest communities in Slovenia. Snow often breaks the beech trees in Krokar, but many of them nevertheless complete their full life cycle and grow huge in stature. The dying and dead trees allow for a high degree of biodiversity. Fungi start decaying the wood first. We can see members of the Pluteus genus on the big chunks. These tiny, almost invisible organisms occupy the wood, spread around and decompose it. This is the green elf cup. Honey agarics bind the wood with their strong filaments and fasten it to the ground. Researchers found no less than 128 different species in Krokar. The decaying wood is decomposed by animals too. Pill millipedes and earthworms are among the last decomposers. The substance now already percolates the soil. The age and sustainability of the primeval forest ecosystem are two main reasons for the flora and fauna diversity, from the forest floor to the treetops of Krokar. Nooks and crannies in and under the fallen trunks provide hiding places and homes for numerous centipedes, bugs, spiders, and snails. Longhorn beetles live in preserved and well-protected beech forest. This species is one of the reasons that vast Kočevska forests and Krokar primeval forest are included in Natura 2000. The development from the larvae stage to an adult bug takes several years. Bracket fungus, Ganoderma lipsians, is rarer on the beech trunks than the tinder fungus. These fungi start to decompose the forest litter into humus, which is the most important substance for successful growth in and above the soil. Forest soil is a living part of the ecosystem. Everything in it lives in a permanent coexistence or symbiosis. They mainly connect trees and fungi. These fungi are called mycorrhizal fungi. Right below the surface, fungi connect living and dead components of the forest soil. The mycelium of a fungus is concentrated on the source of nourishment and exploits it. The organism of a fungus are the filaments which nourish it. Pale hyphae transfer the nourishment through the organic layer of the soil and connect organisms. Fungi and trees give and receive, exchange nourishment, water, and important elements. The hyphae and the mycelium create a network for tree roots, and the fungus acts as an intermediary between the soil and the plant. The soil in natural forest ecosystems is interwoven with the mycelium. The fungus intertwines parts of the decomposed tree trunk, a source of its nourishment, with its hyphae. The mycelium extracts the rich source at an accelerated rate. When the fungus accumulates enough nourishment, it begins to propagate. It does this through its mushroom and spores. Young tree shoots must connect with fungi as quickly as possible in order to secure nourishment. Their tiny roots, surrounded by a fungus, are the final form of coexistence, a mycorrhiza. Fungi and trees exchange different substances, but the bird's nest orchid only takes them. The hyphae connects its root to the nourishment and substances from another plant. Thus, the bird's nest orchid gets all the things it doesn't produce by itself. True slime molds, or Myxogastria, seems like a fungus on a decomposed wood material. But they are actually protozoans, which propagate as fungus, with sorus and spores. The died-off beech trees serve as a habitat for numerous plant species. The most diverse of these are moss species. No less than 66 different species were found in the Krokar primeval forest, including species that are endangered both in Europe and within Slovenia. Since they are common in this forest, Krokar is important as a precious site of rare moss species on a European level. The brown bear finds larvae in dead wood. They also feed on different fruits, but the most important for them is any year with an abundance of nourishing beech nuts. Sycamores are yet another inhabitant of this ancient beech forest. They don't like to be in the shade of beech trees and therefore search for gaps in the tree canopy. Here and there you can find the odd Bosnian maple. In 2017, the Krokar primeval forest has been entered to the UNESCO's World Heritage List as a very well protected primeval forest and as a key relic of the original beech forest community on the north of the Illyrian deciduous forests of Europe. It is an Ice Age refugium and a precious and biodiverse area of the predominant species in it, the beech. This species might have grown and produced seeds here since the end of Tertiary, 2.5 million years ago. Its adaptability and capability to survive might again be tested in these unpredictable times. The pre-nature of Krokar is therefore an inspiration for both researchers and curious admirers.